Drawing airplanes is a pretty easy thing. And the reason it's easy is because airplanes are very well defined, especially historical airplanes, because they fit into a certain space. You know, they got a length, a width, a height, and they got a curve that either happened or it didn't, or a marking was a certain color, or a rivet was there or it wasn't. They're really black and white deals. But when you take adding in the element of recording history, that's where things get hard, because history isn't black and white. History is gray, and gray has all these perspectives. You got one person who says this and one person who says that, and different cultures and different mindsets all come together. It's very difficult to record history. And this one started out as the story of an airplane, and the story of an airplane in the Vietnam War, and the story of a man who was shot down and became a POW. But as we got into the story, it soon became more of the story about all the POWs of the Vietnam War. And then as the story was developing, it became something else. I'd like to introduce this episode of Old Guys in Airplanes. Charlie Plumb, Navy fighter pilot, Naval Academy graduate, POW from 1967 to 1973. And in 2015, he went back.
I was shot down very near Hanoi. I was shot down, our target was a truck park, a Benzium truck park, and it was very close to the city. I mean, the bad news was, at the time, they told us it was the most heavily defended city in the world. They had more anti-aircraft artillery and more missiles, SAM, surface-to-air missiles, around that city of Hanoi than any place in the world. And so we were flying into a real hornet's nest. But if you were shot down near the hornet's nest, you were also close to a formalized prison camp, and you didn't get drugged to the jungle for 2 months. So, I was one of the lucky ones. But the first 300 or 400 guys that were shot down, all broke. We all gave more than name, rank, serial number, date of birth, the code of conduct. That was our code of conduct. We were not obligated to give any more than that because of the Geneva Convention. Well, we all went farther than that, and we all, to a man, felt very guilty. Some guys even considered suicide because they felt they would never be accepted again in our culture, because they had besmirched the flag, that they had turned against America. Here's where my mind went when I was being tortured. This hurts. Whew, this hurts a lot. But I'm alive, and if it doesn't get any worse than this, I'm going to survive this. And then they tightened the ropes, okay? And they pulled my shoulders out of joint. And so the pain went up. And I said, whoa, this hurts even more. But I'm still alive. And if it doesn't get any worse than this, I can survive this. And then they tightened the ropes a little more, and they hung me from a hook in the ceiling, and pain went up. And I'm still thinking, I'm still alive if it doesn't get any worse than this. So I established these plateaus of pain, okay? But I never ever thought I was going to die. I never ever thought that I was going to perish there. And one of the reasons, maybe this is back to my engineering mind, okay, was that I felt that if I ever thought I was going to die, it was going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. That to ever accept the fact that that was a probability or even a possibility in my life was going to mean that I was going to accept the fact that I didn't have the strength to survive. I am convinced that adversity is a horrible thing to waste. And there's one that took me there.
Yeah, that's the one that got you in trouble.
Sure. I'm back. There and back. Here is back. Back is better than there. I'm enjoying back more than I enjoyed there.
I think if they have room in there,
Yeah.
put you in there.
How are you? Charlie.
John Mollison. I interview old guys, I draw their airplanes, and I get myself in trouble.
He will present you what he's made by himself. So this one is home grow by himself, and this is why he make it himself.
Homemade wine. All right. Here's to our friendship.
Có cái đường không ngọt thế này.
Thì tình bạn.
Think about.
Súng bên này rơi bên kia rơi thì mới tính là một trận, chứ còn có bắn nhau thì mới tính, còn nếu mà gặp chào nhau là không tính một trận.
So I fly. I had fly many times, have many sorties, but I don't count it as a battle. I only count as a battle if only I fly up and I see you and then I go back. It's not a battle.
Ah, okay.
I only count as a battle if we fire touch each other.
Okay.
And someone down.
All right. Thank you.
It's the very first.
Không có quyền này.
Tôi đánh nhau ngán em lắm.
When you were shot down, what do you figure you were shot down by?
A surface-to-air missile, an SA-2.
SA-2?
Uh-huh.
There's a SA-2 up
Uh-huh.
here. Do you remember seeing it?
I did not. It came from my 6 o'clock position, but there were several missiles in the sky that day. There were 8 F-4 Phantoms shot down on the day that I was shot down. It was the 19th of May of 1967. That's Ho Chi Minh's birthday. We thought, I later found out, I didn't even know it was his birthday when I was shot down. But I later found out that our intelligence people thought that we would find them in celebration, that they would be having the birthday party for Uncle Ho, and that we'd catch them with their pants down.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they were wrong. Yep, that's what shot me down. Near the end of the Vietnam War, they ran out of all the parts for these missiles. And by 1973, when we finally signed that treaty, they were using old parts. They were using SA-2 parts on the new missiles because they didn't have them anymore. They couldn't get them anymore. I don't know if our intelligence people knew that or not. And of course, we, at that time, had the opportunity to go back in with our B-52s. Had we done that, it would have been a total different outcome of that war. I'm convinced. They were out of missiles. They were out of supplies. They were hurting real bad.
Oh, there's There's a bunch of uniforms. Any of those uniforms and colors?
Yep, saw a lot of those.
Were the guards ever nice?
Only when they were brand new. The very brand new guards that had not been indoctrinated were somewhat human toward us. One we call Babyface, and they were all very young and very immature. And one looked like he was 13 years old. And you know, all of them were about this high. And they had, this guy had a bayonet which was probably 18 inches above his head on his rifle. And he was somewhat nice to us.
So what does nice mean?
Well, you know, he would smile. He would occasionally bring cigarettes. He seemed to have some sympathy toward us. Then he disappeared for a few weeks. We assumed they took him to some kind of training, and he came back and was just as mean as the other guys. It was really interesting the way they seemed to be able to turn their people on and off like a switch. It's really kind of unnerving.
Ooh, here's some leg irons.
Yep.
Okay, I gotta ask, any chance, Charlie, that you were in those leg irons?
Yep. There were guys that were in these leg irons for as long as 3 months.
So where do you go to the bathroom?
You go to the bathroom right where you are.
Well, what does that do to your skin? Seriously.
Yeah, no, it gives you a very bad rash all over. And you're just, you know, just
How do you get clean?
you don't clean.
Did the Vietnamese ascribe to the Geneva Convention for Treatment of Career Prisoners?
No, they did not. They told everyone that it was not a declared war, so they didn't need to subscribe to the convention, which of course they had signed. Yep.
So times have changed.
How could I ever imagine 50 years ago that the torture rooms would be turned into a souvenir shop? But there is a room with a hook in the center of the ceiling, and the hook had a chain, and that's when we were tortured. Part of the torture was to hang us from that hook. That was part of it.
How would they hang you from
Well,
the hook?
it started out with shackles on our ankles and manacles on our wrists behind our back. And they took a line and they would wrap one elbow to the other. The elbows are actually touching behind your back. Then they would take a line from the shackle up over your shoulders back down to your wrist. Then they tightened this rope. The end result was that your wrists were all the way up above your head. I could actually look up and see my wrists back there backwards. My shoulders were totally out of joint. They were twisted to where my wrists were up there. My feet were right up in my face like this, and I was wadded up like a human pretzel. Then they, to further that, they would take the rope, the line between our wrists now, and the bar that went through the shackles on our feet, and they would hang us with this rope on the hook and the chain from the hook. And so we would be hanging there, and that was part of the tortures. How long are you going to hang there?
How long would you hang?
It seemed like hours, probably more like a few minutes. But they wanted you to talk. They wanted information, and they were going to let you hang there until you started talking. They had figured out our communication system and built a brand new prison camp that would deny any of us communicating with anybody else. Within 48 hours, 150 guys knew the name, rank, serial number, date of birth of every other 149 guys in that prison camp. Our communication was amazing. We'd have a vent hole. We couldn't see into any other cell, but if you took a piece of mahogany, a little mahogany board, and you put earwax on it, you can make a mirror out of it. And so you could stick that mirror out the vent hole and adjust it so that you could see into your mirror and it could see into your buddy's mirror, and you could actually communicate by seeing each other either with a deaf-mute code or with a semaphore signal code or with a Morse code.
Something to break a reflection to give it a texture.
Exactly. And so, and that was just one of the many ways we communicated. Well, I remember being there, and I remember the pain. I remember the frustration, the loneliness, the humiliation that I was undergoing. And in one way, I'm very, very happy that it's all over. While I would never ever choose to go through something like this, I recognize the value of it.
Sure.
And that I'm a better person because of it. When you go through an experience like this, one of the big advantages is you have the confidence to meet new challenges. And I feel and I hope that nothing in my life will ever challenge me as much as the challenge that I faced inside this cell. Every night we would tap. G, B, U. God bless you. That was when we signed off, that was our sign-off 3-letter admonition and prayer. God bless you. I'm very happy to see you again and see that you're in good health.
Bác ấy rất vui khi được gặp lại bác và lại thấy bác rất khỏe mạnh như thế này.
And even riding your motorcycle.
Khỏe mạnh và thậm chí còn lái được xe máy.
Tôi rất vui được gặp bạn. Ngày xưa là đối tượng với nhau, bây giờ là bạn. Việt Nam với Hoa Kỳ Việt là bạn, chúng ta là bạn.
He say he's very happy to meet you again. A friend of him. Previously, we are enemies, but now Vietnam and America is friend. American pilots, although they are enemy, they still the human beings. They have the families, they have wife, they have the children. Right. So I need to behave good. I need to have the good treatment to the American pilot. I never think of beating American pilot, because if I beat one American pilot, if the American pilot hurt one, their families, their wife, their children will hurt 10. That's true. Just like me, I has my families, I has my wife. So I never beat American pilot.
Never beat American pilots. What do you think of the treatment of American pilots? How do you see that we were treated?
Here, I answer to one of the American journalists that there's no other countries in the world treat the POW as human, as good as Vietnam. So my friends ask me what is my job when I am a director of the Hoa Lo prison. I say that my job is to ensure that the POW American pilots get the human treatment.
There were several questions that we always had, and one was, why did you move us from one camp to another camp so many times? We never understood why.
Hai là muốn để cắt đứt cái mối quan hệ của cá nhân các bạn cứ gõ thưởng này. Thông tin nào?
We tapped on the wall.
Thông tin này nhau.
And also is,
that's very true.
And also is to cut the relation with other prisoner by knocking on the wall.
gõ vào thế này, gõ vào tường nó này. Cho lính cứ phải
You knew that we
phải
were
phá cái đó.
kept doing that.
So that we had to move you around to destroy the connection with the friend.
Now, why did you not want us to communicate with each other? Why did you keep us separated? Why couldn't we communicate with each other?
Hai là vấn đề thông báo các bạn là bây giờ cái danh sách tù binh và cái số lượng phi công giam là chúng tôi tuyệt mật, không thể biết. Cho nên cứ người nọ thông người kia thì nó phải biết, cuối cùng có thể làm cho chính phủ biết toàn bộ phi công chúng bắt ở bao nhiêu, chúng tôi phải giữ bí mật.
The name of the prisoner and the number of the prisoner is a top secret. So when all the prisoners gather together, they will know how many, and they will know the name. So that's maybe the American government. They know how many prisoners. So we need to keep that number, and the name is secret. I satisfied with what I have done in Plumb. As the reality proof that the POW, when they return to America, they play very important roles in strengthening the relation between the two countries, to improve the good relation between Vietnam and America. I have some contribution to I has fulfilled the policies of the government to have the good treatment with the POW. So when they come back, they promote the relation between the two countries.
You know, the one thing that we've watched with this story is you got frustrated with the commandants, you know, I'll just call him the commandant, with his lack of admission, or his, you know, he believes a lie.
It seems that he does.
Were you expecting anything different?
I was not. I thought that there might be a possibility that he would take the American or Western point of view and ask for forgiveness and admit that they had tortured prisoners. But it didn't surprise me either that he stuck to the party line. That was what I heard him say was exactly what I had heard for the 6 years I was here. It surprised me that he tried to make friends with me. That it seemed like so genuine, you know, that he touched me and he
Hey, leaned across. It was almost a subservient bend.
It was, and that surprised me. I really had no idea that he would try to establish this mano a mano with me. And expect me to reciprocate, which pretty much I did. You know, I didn't deny him by any means, but when he opened up at things that I knew, you know, I was there. Not just one, but 5 or 6 major lies that I knew, and my buddies know, because we talk about this stuff. We know the truth, and 5 or 6 times he offered. He wasn't even answering our questions. He was offering the fact that they had never beaten an American, that all of our treatment was exactly equal, that whether they were senior or junior, or long-term or short-term, it was all equal to treatment, he said, across the board. Well, that is just so much malarkey. It's just, it absolutely was not true. So how do you establish a friendship with a guy that stands there and bold-faced, eyeball to eyeball, lies to you?
Is it necessary to come clean? Is it necessary For you?
To me, not to me.
Why not?
No, I don't need that.
Do you think it'd be better for him? Or does he need it?
I don't think he needs it. He believes his lie. That's his world. I don't need his, I don't need his friendship for sure. I don't need his admission. I don't need his apology. It wouldn't make a bit of difference to me. It would be of interest, and it might, make me think that perhaps there is some hope for humanity. And so I suspect that Mr. Duet had been told these things over and over and over and louder and louder and louder until he actually accepted it, that he actually believed it. And that's all right. It's okay, but it's a lie, and if it's a lie, I can't trust it. The forgiveness issue is more of a survival issue. I am healthier today because I forgave that guy a long time ago. It's everybody wants to be an American. And got in a cab last night right here in Hanoi, and the guy said, "Where are you from?" We said, "America." He said, "Freedom." His eyes lit up. He said, "Freedom. This is a cab driver."
The thing that really got me, when I look at that print and I look at this backstory behind it, is this moment when Charlie and I were in one of these concrete cells. And they're small, they're not very big. You can almost do this, And I asked Charlie if he felt confined. And he paused for a minute, and then he gets his fingers out and he says, "You know what the smallest prison cell in the world is?" He said, "It's the 8 inches between your ears." I thought about that for a minute. And then he looked at me and he smiled and he said, "Let's get out of here."